Good morning. Wow. Wow. I've got some breaking news that no one seems to be paying attention to, you guys. We have a convicted felon in the White House. Why is that not a flippin' lead story every day, or at least a feature on every news program, reminding us that Donald Trump was found guilty on 34 felony counts by a jury in New York, and it was a white collar criminal offense related to interfering in the 2016 election. Why is that not always a lead story, you guys? And why aren't we actually making, just a logical correlation between the lawless criminal behavior of Donald Trump as a citizen, as well as being, of course, sentenced? He is a convicted felon. Why are we drawing a connection between a convicted felon occupying the White House and the illegal actions he has taken and continues to promise to take? I don't know what is wrong with the news. I don't know if the corporate leaders are co opted or advertisers understandably think people don't want to buy cornflakes when they're thinking about the KKK. But quite honestly, there's a way to bring these stories in such a way that I think would be successful for a business in the long term. But what do I know? I'm certainly not a broadcasting expert, but I'm grateful for all of you here who participate in our community. So that is really the ongoing breaking news. But especially for today, what I want to share with you is my great disappointment in the behavior of NBC. And I say NBC because it's not just MSNBC. And there was a bloodbath at the network yesterday. And what I would like to say about this is I don't want to mince words here. It was only non-white anchors who got fired, period. And let me share this with you right here. I'm asking the question in this thumbnail and on today's show. Were the cuts at NBC racist? We have Jonathan Capehart, right? You see him? He had the Sunday show. We have Alex Wagner, who had a nightly show on MSNBC. We have Lester Holt, who was on the main network. If I continue around clockwise, my dear friend Katie Fang, who had a morning show out of Miami. Then we have Ayman Muhadeen. And of course, as we finish the circle, Joy Reid. These were popular anchors with strong followings. And somehow, somehow, um, MSNBC um, is here making these cuts. Now, I hope that you see on this thumbnail that I created on the right. Let me actually blow this up a little more. I hope you see that I took this photo of Elon Musk and his Nazi salute. And instead of having the seal of the President of the United States, because he made this when he was at the one of the inaugural events, put NBC's logo right there because as far as I am concerned, there is very little difference in the efforts that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are putting into place with their firing of people. For example, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and other leaders of the military who are all either women or men of color. So I just want to say I'm not fooled by this. And I think it's really important to think about the people who are left behind. And I am so glad that Rachel Maddow who is the sort of lead anchor, as we know, on MSNBC, who's come back every night for 100 days. And supposedly she took back Alex Wagner's time slot. As remember, Rachel was only here on Mondays on the show. Rachel takes back Alex's time slot. Alex was going to be in the field during these 100 days after the inauguration. Now we find out that Alex isn't going to come back. Now, what frustrates me is people say this isn't racist because the people taking Alex's spot happen to be, Simone Sanders and Michael Steele and Alicia Menendez, and they are non-white, right? Okay. The problem with is these folks already had a job. It's great that they're gonna have get more attention than they did on the weekend show, that they're gonna have a primetime space, but they're not new hires. What we're talking about is 100% of the anchors hired or shows canceled were led by or helmed by the people I just showed you. And to me, even if it was not intentional, the fact that nobody stopped the new head of NBC and said, this appears whatever policy you've created is having a disparate impact on non-white people. And it makes it look like that, this is segregation. It makes it look like MSNBC is for whites only. And I find that disturbing and disgusting. And I want to say that the good news is that Rachel Maddow is saying something. She is not just collecting her dollars and doing her broadcast. She has far much more integrity. And, in my dream world, she walks off the show if they don't come back. She would do fine independently running her own, channel right here on YouTube. Now, I don't know the terms of her contract and what it allows, but if talent have morals clauses that for which if they tarnish their reputation and that would reflect poorly on their employer, they can be terminated. I wonder if there's a reciprocal morals clause that if the network turns into racist fascists bowing down and kissing Donald Trump in Elon Musk's ring and worse, if she would be able to get out of it. But here's the good news. I want to share with you what Rachel said last night. And this is in two segments. Let's play the first one right now. Here we go.
In all of the jobs I have had, in all of the years I have been alive, there is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. I love everything about her. I have learned so much from her. I have so much more to learn from her. I do not want to lose her as a colleague here at MSNBC. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door. It is not my call, and I understand that, but that's what I think. I will tell you, it is also unnerving to see that on a network where we've got count them, two non-white hosts in primetime, both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows, as is Katie Fang on the weekend. And that feels worse than bad, no matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it.
That's good. But she goes on because and this is, I think, even the better part of Rachel's direct to camera condemnation of the behavior of MSNBC. Because Rachel is acknowledging what you really don't see behind the scenes, right? What you don't see behind the scenes here is the impact on all the producers who make the shows happen. And when a show is canceled, or when you have, a star or an anchor leave, then at the end of the day, you have of, tens and 20 and 30 people, these talented people losing their job, ending these relationships. And the person who made this happen is someone named Rebecca Cutler, who just got the job as head of the news division around 10 days ago, although she was in temporarily as the division head. So, this is a pretty bold and, dare I say again, apparently racist move. So I want to say, though, this is really great. The next thing Rachel Maddow had to say. Let me play this.
But one thing you cannot necessarily see is that the people who get our shows on the air, they're really being put through the ringer. Dozens of producers and staffers, including some who are among the most experienced and most talented and most specialist producers in the building, are facing being laid off. They're being invited to reapply for new jobs. That has never happened at this scale in this way before when it comes to programming changes, presumably because it's not the right way to treat people and it's inefficient and it's unnecessary. And it kind of drops the bottom out of whether or not people feel like this is a good place to work. And so we don't generally do things that way.
Wow. You know, Rachel doesn't need this shit. And she doesn't like how everyone else is being treated. And I certainly also understand why she might not want to walk off right now. The show. I hugely admire that she didn't just sit there and take it. I think there'll be more on this. And so what are the alternatives? I posted about the show on Blue Sky. And I appreciate people's comments. One of my concerning comments was someone quote tweeted, so I detached this tweet that, oh yes, that's a bad network. So why doesn't everyone turn to Midas Touch? Now I think the Midas Touch guys and gals are great. That is true. I'm not seeing a lot of diversity on Midas Touch. And, here I am, a one person, show here. So it's just me. But and this is not a criticism of those folks, they built this thing up and it's incredibly powerful and popular. But I would like to see people start YouTube channels that can grow. I would flip in love if Joy Reid or Katie Fang got together and built their own YouTube network where it's clear that they are running the show and will not be sort of kicked off when the next person who wants to play, Elon Musk as a director wants to pull them off their shows. And that is my hope for the people who land after this. If this is how the corporate news media is going to behave, they're kind of a little bit losing viewers anyway. We see the growth in alternative channels, which are beginning to consolidate. Good for the Midas Touch folks. Let's see if Joy or Katie or Jonathan or Iman will build their own YouTube effort. I want to see them every day of the week. Now, in the meantime, what are some other places you might watch? Well, I think CNN, some of the programs are doing a pretty good job of giving voice to other friends of mine, and you probably know from Nerd Avengers like Tara Setmeyer, getting on CNN and getting in the face of people who are representing some of the most annoying views, insensitive views, inaccurate, and doing the fact checking, which I think can help for those who may watch the show and see a friend or a neighbor or a family member reflected in the ignorant views, and then have intelligent ways to respond. So I want to share with you something that Tara Setmeyer said, and here we go. I think. Hold on. Here we go.
A certain affinity for this strongman posture, and the bromance he has with Putin is on purpose at the expense of Zelensky, because Zelensky has stood up for his people and democracy in ways that Donald Trump never has for America.
All right, we got to leave it.
So this is Setmeyer discussing what happened yesterday. There's yesterday in terms of shamefully, the United States refused to sign on at the UN to a condemnation of Russia. I'm going to talk to you about that in 1 second and expand on that. Setmeyer, though, also was really clear to challenge the folks on the show who wanted to, tell lies about what the Trump administration is doing. I want to go back to this point, though, about Donald Trump's turncoats. I am an American, but I do not support Donald Trump or the MAGA movement or the unlawful DOGE efforts. I will not put my identity and my support and my patriotism behind a convicted felon who is a turncoat also. So let's look at this. There was a UN resolution to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And you can see here on this map, this came from Axios. This was as of yesterday. The US voted against the UN resolution condemning Russia for the Ukraine invasion. So, as this notes, the Trump administration has found itself increasingly isolated on the world stage. I mean, if you look at all the purple are the people on the side of Ukraine and condemning Russia and Putin. Somehow, we find ourselves in the orange. Nice color, matches Donald Trump's chosen hue. But in all seriousness, this is not good, you guys. It's terrible. And there are still people speaking out. And so I want to share with you another voice, Representative Becca Ballant, or Balint. I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. She's a lovely rep from Vermont. She's the only member of the House of Representatives. So she represents the whole state, along, of course, with the two senators. Sorry, excuse me. Bernie Sanders and Peter Welch. Let's listen to Becca Balint.
Now, the United States stands with Russia and North Korea against Ukraine and all of our allies in Europe. It's sick. We are standing with dictators and against our allies. I never thought I would see the day when our president would be a puppet for a dictator. To my Republican colleagues, did you ever imagine that you would be in a party that stands on the sides of dictators or on the sides of a country who kills journalists, with an authoritarian accused of war crimes, a man who assassinates his political opponents? Aren't you embarrassed by what you've become? It's
gentlewoman's time has expired.
to watch my colleagues side with Russia because Trump said so. I yield back.
I love her, and we need more of this. Good for Becca Balint. Now, I also want to add here for you that there are some pieces of good news. So let me give you those. And I think the first one is this update from Vandy Weingarten. She is the president of the American Federation of Teachers, my union. And because they're joined with the American Association of University Professors. Anyhow, you remember Randy came on the show. And she came on the show at a time when they were beginning to bring lawsuits against DOGE. It was a time when she kind of broke the news at that moment. Let me just hop in here. She'd broken the news on the show that Donald Trump was trying to halt not just payments abroad, payments made to like US aid, but also Donald Trump was trying to halt payments inside of the United States to all sorts of agencies. And remember, there was an injunction to stop that shortly after Randy was on the show. Well, Randy has put up on her Blue Sky account some breaking news because the American Federation of Teachers is involved in more than one lawsuit. The court just issued a temporary restraining order in a lawsuit against their lawsuit against Elon Musk's DOGE. And so what was this? This was a lawsuit to stop Elon Musk and DOGE, because I know they're trying to claim he's not part of it, from accessing private data of US citizens that's held both at the Department of Education and the Office of Personnel Management. Now, yes, this is a huge victory. Question, of course, is how will it be enforced? And since they've already accessed data, how do we get that data back? from, Mr. Big Balls and the other members. And that is not a reference to Elon Musk. Of course, that is to Edward Korstein, the like 19-year-old who is on this team. How do we make sure that they return the data they may have taken? Because of course, Department of Education has a ton of student loan information, financial information, social security information, and obviously the Office of Personnel Management is equally sensitive. This is positive. Tomorrow, I'm going to take a moment to fill you in on top lawsuits, but this is one that makes me super happy. Now, I want to share with you two other bits of good news. People who voted for Donald Trump are starting to get disillusioned. And I know it takes a long time, but this goes to this whole thing about DOGE, the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. And I want to point out a couple things. One, of course, it was all a lie, but they claimed that they were trying to find fraud and abuse. So far, they have found $0, zero, and zero evidence. They have presented none of fraud and abuse. All they are doing is unilaterally canceling contracts that either Donald Trump doesn't want or have certain keywords that they pick out and decide cancel, slash, slash, slash. That is not fraud and abuse that they are finding. That is illegal activity on their part to unilaterally, end agreements that were already agreed to be or funded by Congress, who has the power to appropriate funds after legislation is passed. And it is not fraud and abuse of the government, but it is fraudulent behavior and criminality on behalf of DOGE, Donald Trump, and their team. So I want to play for you what someone had to say about where they see Donald Trump is, because some people who voted for him somehow think big government is bad. And they don't fully understand that large government, when it is acting effectively, moderates the more inherently selfish behavior of the private sector. Private sector is really good. As I told you, I like mixed economies. Private sector is really good at doing certain things, profit motive and monetary compensation, helps people get out of bed, helps generate creativity. But there's too much of a temptation to cut corners, to cheat, and so on, and to hurt competitors. That's why we have the counterbalancing aspect of government for consumer protection, for protecting competition, for making sure food and drugs aren't adulterated. I could go on and on. These things are supposed to be in balance. So anyhow, let me play what this MAGA supporter is saying now.
Yes, Hayes wants the government shrunk, but he doesn't see a coherent plan. And he doesn't trust Elon Musk, doesn't believe what he says, doesn't want Trump letting Musk poke around Social Security or tax files.
I don't know how many people he's fired. And, Musk keeps saying, well, I found $1 billion of waste here. And Social Security, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that are collecting it that are between 100 years old and 150. Can you believe any of that crap? You can't substantiate it, but you can't believe it. So that's a trust issue.
I love that video. I can watch that on repeat. This guy gets it, totally gets it. We get it. They don't trust Elon Musk. And Donald Trump is glued to Elon Musk, just like he's glued to Vladimir Putin. And I believe that Elon Musk might be in some ways supporting Putin and vice versa. They have a mutual support relationship in certain ways. And you know that Elon Musk met with Putin before he bought Twitter. I imagine whatever compromise, whatever secret information or whatever reasons that Putin can pull Donald Trump's strings, I'm sure Elon Musk has similar information. So this is a good sign, because this will not help Donald Trump. Now, I've got something else for you. Remember yesterday I suggested that our best people of the day, the people of the day were ordinary Americans like this gentleman, but also people, especially yesterday, I mentioned going to town halls and speaking out. Well, I've got a town hall excerpt. This is something Rachel showed on her show, and of them giving this rep a very hard time. Let's watch.
Great question, and I'm glad you asked it. Answer it! Okay, I am very glad that someone is looking at all of the waste.
Wow. So this is a representative from Yucca Valley, California. And this was a YouTube. I'm going to pause it. This is Rep Obernolte. And you hear people shouting, do your job, no more Musk. They don't believe it. So this is good. This groundswell is good. And we need to keep this up now before it's too late, before Cash Patel is able to team up. If assuming Dan Bongino gets appointed, which he will, we are facing situations where there could be a lot of lawlessness involved in the FBI. We want to create a groundswell now, and I am glad to see it. Now, before I get to my crazy town, I want to share with you my person of the day. And this is my dear friend, Katie Fang. Katie and I have been friends for a little over 3 years. I met her in 2021, so maybe about 3.5 years. And I was there with her when she heard she got her anchor spot on MSNBC. And I'm devastated by the news that they're trying to cancel her show. Supposedly it's because they're not going to be using the Miami division and they're consolidate in DC and New York. And yeah, okay, whatever. I love this spontaneous hashtag that came up from, I think, a group called Persist. Hashtag We Stand with Katie. And this is something Katie said. I was and remain proud to have been one of the only AAPI, Asian and Pacific Islander, right? Asian American Pacific Islander hosts with her name on a show. Representation matters, and we stand with Katie. Again, Asian American Pacific Islander, one of the only hosts. Katie is brought and will in the future bring incredible class, intelligence, and no BS to any show she anchors. Now they're keeping her on apparently. This is what I know from the news. I would never share with you any private communication. And she would never share that with her friends. You don't do that with business contracts. However, I see they're keeping her on as a legal correspondent. Again, as I said earlier, I hope Katie launches with, whether on her own or Joy Reid or anyone else, her own YouTube channel, because she doesn't need MSNBC. With friends like that, who needs Elon and other enemies? Now let's do a little crazy town, you guys. I'm finding it. Crazy Town comes today on CNN, where Rep Collins is confronted with the question all of us should have asked. These Republicans who are claiming Elon Musk is doing the right thing and that there's been, all this fraud and abuse and there's supposedly dead people getting Social Security. Republicans in the House have been in charge. Where have been the investigative hearings? Why didn't they ever raise this issue? Let's listen.
Health
But
and
can you,
survivability.
you've been in Congress for 2 years. If there is fraud in Medicaid, why have we not heard anything from House Republicans about that for the last 2 years?
Look, I'm not on Energy and Commerce, which or Ways
Which is
and
tasked
Means.
with coming up with $880
Right.
billion in cuts, as you know, which a lot of people are worried that's more than just the reforms that you're talking about.
Caitlin, I'm not making excuses. We need to do a better job.
So I just need you to hear there was a lot. Back up for a second. I'm going to play that again. This is crazy time because there's so much packed here. First, she's saying, you've been in Congress. Why didn't you mention the fraud and abuse? Then she throws out a number of $800 billion in cuts that far exceeds that. So I want you to listen really carefully. He doesn't answer her questions. The crazy part is that she asks the questions and more people aren't doing this. So let's play it one more time.
That for their health
But
and
can you,
survivability.
you've been in Congress for 2 years. If there is fraud in Medicaid, why have we not heard anything from House Republicans about that for the last 2 years?
Look, I'm not on Energy and Commerce, which or Ways
Which is
and
tasked
Means.
with coming up with $880
Right.
billion in cuts, as you know, which a lot of people are worried that's more than just the reforms that you're talking about.
Caitlin, I'm not making excuses. We need to do a better job, and I think every chair is charged now. This is serious business we're talking about.
That was Mark Alford, not Representative Collins. I apologize. And he's from Missouri. The point there, though, was when someone says, I'm not making excuses, that means they are making excuses. He's dodging the questions, he's making excuses. And when you have Caitlin Collins pushing back, it tells you that a bigger audience than the audience that used to watch MSNBC, a bigger audience than the folks who watch alternative networks here on YouTube are hearing this message. Bottom line is the cuts seem too big and too arbitrary. There's no evidence of fraud and abuse. No one trusts Elon Musk. We need to run with that. I will see you tomorrow. Great spending the morning with you. And please remember, do not take part in the lie. See you soon.